Dear learners, welcome back to your education channel Learn and Educate, where we were studying a few basics about the goods and service tax. Section 2, Clause 66, Invoice or tax invoice means the tax invoice referred to in Section 31 of the CGST Act 2017. Invoicing is a very important aspect for ensuring the tax compliances under the indirect tax regime. In order to ensure the transparency, issue of invoice for every taxable transaction is most important. In case of supply of goods or related to provision of service, an invoice is raised by the supplier of such goods or services to the recipient for the same. The tax invoice acts as a document evidencing the payment of the value of the goods or services or both, and also the tax portion, the value of supply and the tax to be payable. Invoice serves as a demand for payment and becomes a document of title when the paid of consideration in full. Invoice is a commercial instrument issued by supplier of goods or services to recipient, identifying both the parties. The list describes the number of goods, the products sold, the quantities sold, the date of supply, the date of shipments, the mode of transportation, and the delivery and the payment consideration. The significance of invoice has been enhanced multifold under the GST regime, since the same is related to invoice matching mechanism that has been introduced under the GST. Invoice is a time-stamped commercial document that identifies and records the transaction between the buyer and seller. If goods or services are to be purchased on credit, the invoice usually specifies the terms of the deal and provides the information related to availability about the methods of payment. As per Section 31 of the CGST Act related to tax invoice, subsection 1, where the registered person supplies the taxable goods before or at the time of supply of the removal of the goods for supply to the recipient, where the supply involves the movement of goods, then supply the registered person shall issue a tax invoice, or for the purpose when delivery of goods or making available of it to the recipient. In any other cases, then issue an tax invoice showing the description, quantity and the value of goods, the tax charge on it and the particulars related to that. When in the case of a registered person supplying taxable services, shall, before or after the provisions of the services but within the prescribed period, shall issue a tax invoice showing the description, value, tax charge on and other particulars as may be required. Therefore, a registered person shall issue tax invoice when at the time of removal of goods for the supply to the recipient, or where the supply involves movement of goods, and in the case of supply of services, where before or after the provision of supply of services but within the prescribed time, issue a tax invoice.